2009, Belinda Magana's MySpace post for Mother's Day read, "Happy Mother's Day weekend to all you moms. Enjoy every moment with your fam." Thoughtful, kind, caring, it was short and sweet, and fantastic. But at times, even the most beautiful posies cannot mask the smell of a conscience rotting from the inside out. Our case tonight is one of neglect and mistreatment, of deceit and selfishness. It truly is extremely sad because no matter the tragedy, the parents who should be thinking about their child first and foremost did nothing but think about themselves. I'm your host, JT, and this is Women on Death Row. Let's get into it. Mother's Day 2009 was a time to celebrate the mothers and mother figures in our lives. But days before and up to, a young boy of 2, Malachi Magana, went through a torturous ordeal. Before we get to that, the first notification of an issue that police received was in the form of a phone call to Corona, California police, and Belinda asked them to come over to her apartment that she shared with her boyfriend of 5 months, Naresh Michael Noreen. Belinda said calmly, with very little distress, that her 2-year-old son, Malachi Magana, had disappeared while they were at a family barbecue at a park nearby. An extensive search yielded no clues, despite the use of volunteers, bloodhounds, and a police helicopter. Police grew suspicious due to inconsistencies in Belinda's story and her unusually calm demeanor. Also, neither Belinda nor her boyfriend Noreen would participate in the search. Everyone is frantically looking for Malachi, except for Belinda Magana and Naresh Noreen. Of course, one of the first things police did was question Belinda and Noreen. Police quickly doubted their stories, and they found both inconsistencies and discrepancies. Belinda continued to sound incredibly calm, which was most assuredly a red flag. In addition to this observation, the two gave statements that incriminated themselves and each other. Calhoun, the prosecutor, said, "She tells me the story and takes herself out of it, blaming it all on Mr. Noreen." By the early hours of the next day, Belinda was showing the police the location of her son in a shallow grave just off Lytle Creek Road in San Bernardino County. As she took them to Lytle Creek Road, she told them Noreen had killed him when she was out of the house. When Malachi was found, his body was covered in bruises and burn marks. It was clear that his life was traumatic, and the final days of his life were hell on earth. Belinda and Noreen were charged with 1 count each of murder, torture, and assault on a child causing death. They were both scheduled to stand trial. Due to the torture charge, which is a mitigating factor, they were going to face the death penalty. Because both defendants gave statements that incriminated each other, the Riverside County District Attorney's Office requested a separate jury to be impaneled for each defendant. This was due to the fact that some evidence may be presented to one jury and not to the other. Before Belinda's arraignment, her mother, Maria Salcida, spoke out, saying she's been accused of something that she didn't do. She said that there was abuse in the home prior to the incident, and if authorities had acted at the time, the whole thing might have been prevented. She went on to say, "That man who is supposedly named Michael, he poisoned my baby. He abused her and my grandson, and now my grandson is dead. And the Fontana police knew about this because there was a report made earlier 2 months back, and the Fontana police said they couldn't do anything unless something bad happened. I hope they're happy now because my grandson is dead. He's abusive. He's abusive and he has a bad track record. And with my grandson, he beat him. He killed him. Every evidence points towards him. She said that her daughter could never do anything like that. And finally, she said, a child is a child. He can't do no harm. My daughter didn't harm him. My daughter was innocent. I know her. I raised her. I raised her in the church. Anybody from our church can tell you that it's not her. He's a monster. He took her away from us. He took her away from the family she was living with. He didn't let her talk to me at all. During the trial, prosecutors said that Malachi had essentially been abused to death. A couple of days before he died, either Belinda or Noreen poured a boiling hot liquid over Malachi, scalding a layer of skin off his head, neck, and back. Neither Belinda or Noreen sought medical attention for him. Due to the burns, Malachi screamed and cried, but when he cried, he was brutally beaten with a belt. Supporting this theory, Malachi's autopsy showed he had suffered extensive scalding and blunt force trauma to the head. The attorneys could not decide on whether the primary cause of death was the blunt force trauma or sepsis from the untreated scalding injury, which they only treated with diaper rash ointment, and Malachi would never see any additional treatment whatsoever, as he suffered for 5 days before his death. When Malachi died, they wrapped him in a plastic bag and stuffed him into the back seat of the car. His 4-year-old brother also climbed into the back seat. They had a party to get to in Apple Valley. On Mother's Day, in the early morning or late at night, he was buried. It was then that Belinda and Noreen concocted a story that he went missing while at a family barbecue at a Corona park. Then, they called the police. During the trial, each party blamed the other, and defense attorneys argued over who did it. It was a she said, he said situation. One of Belinda's defense lawyers, Ryan Markson, said that Noreen was domineering, controlling, and that Noreen, who had 4 children from a previous marriage and was not Malachi's biological father, had a hold on Magana in just the 2 months the couple lived together. He also forced Belinda to use physical discipline on her son. He said that Melinda wasn't home when Malachi was burned and that Noreen refused to let her seek medical treatment. Additionally, he said that his client was not a cold-blooded killer, and at most might be guilty of involuntary manslaughter, a woman who failed to protect her son. From the position of Noreen's attorney, Michael Belter, he said that was patently false, and that Belinda was an extremely neglectful and abusive mother, and that this had gone on long before Noreen began dating her 5 months before Malachi's murder. Each defendant supported their position with witness testimony. Several of Noreen's relatives corroborated the claims. They said that because Malachi was a product of rape, Belinda always treated him differently than her other son. Also, as Malachi was dying, Noreen went to Long Beach overnight to DJ. Despite this, Belinda did not seek out medical help. Quote, she wasn't held hostage. She had a phone. She had a car. She leaves for the store. She didn't leave for a hospital, urgent care, or a doctor's office. She left for the store. In the end, the separate juries found Belinda Magana and Naresh Noreen guilty of all charges in connection with the murder of her 2.5-year-old son. They were convicted of first-degree murder, torture, mayhem, and assault on a child causing death, and additional enhancements involving torture and mayhem, which, as stated before, made the defendants eligible for the death penalty. During the penalty phase, the prosecution was working on all cylinders, working towards the maximum punishment. Riverside County Deputy District Attorney Dima Calhoun described how Belinda was acting violently in jail and that she had already been in several jailhouse fights. In one, Magana grabbed an inmate from behind by the hair, slashed her face with a razor blade, kicked her, quote, and tried to throw her off the second floor of the jail housing unit. In another, Magana fashioned a weapon out of a razor blade and slashed the arm of an inmate in a neighboring cell. In the comments section of one of the articles I read, there was an interesting comment. Because I can't verify it, we'll take it with a grain of salt. But I think it's important to mention in the event that this person is being honest. They said, I was wrongfully jailed back in 2012. I was in the same day room as Belinda and witnessed her slash Brandy's face and kick and punch her bloody until she lost her baby. She was 5 months pregnant. They subpoenaed me as a witness during her sentencing trial in front of the jury. The judge wanted me to leave out the fact that Brandy was pregnant, and I refused to do so. Belinda is evil to the core. She had no remorse for anything she did. I believe it was my testimony that got her the death penalty. Again, I was unable to find anything relating the name of this person to the case, but 1, it could be a random username they selected, and 2, it seems like quite an odd choice to lie about that specifically. During the penalty phase of Noreen, Calhoun said that he had a history of domestic violence, and that this was not new for him. The history included 2 of his former wives. Calhoun also said that the relationship between Belinda and Noreen went from kind and loving to domineering and violent. Testimony from his first wife revealed that their relationship fell apart and reached a breaking point when Noreen punched her in the face. His second wife said that Noreen berated her and punched her so hard in the chest that she had trouble breathing. The thoughtless, pointless, and needless horror that Malachi faced never needed to be. Malachi should still be walking this earth today. During the trial, relatives testified that they actually offered to raise both boys, but Belinda would not accept the offer. With everything in mind, and with the verdict of guilty on May 2nd, 2015, both were sentenced to death. The judge, while passing down his sentence, called the actions repulsive and disgusting. If the incident had not occurred, the judge said Malachi would be about 7 or 8. Quote, he would have been in school, playing with friends, getting ready for summer vacation. What is saddest of all is that no one appeared to speak for Malachi during the penalty phase. When Deputy District Attorney Dima Calhoun was asked outside court after the sentencing who would speak for Malachi, he said, "Me and the jury. The jury speaks for him." They spoke. They screamed from the rooftops. And the 2, Belinda and Noreen, were sentenced to death due to the heinous nature of their crimes, and they are now in prison for the rest of their lives. Thank you for tuning in to Women on Death Row. Don't forget to like this video and leave a comment below letting us know your thoughts about this case. If you've liked what you've seen, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and then become a member by clicking the join button and get notified when each video in the series is released. Until next time, take care of yourself, your friends, your family, and your community. Don't let anybody dull your sparkle, and shine on, you crazy diamonds. Shine on.